So the head bolts get torqued down to 75 to 80. Okay, so the cylinder head's on, torque down. So it looks like I'm gonna have to look in the manual, but I think the valve train probably the next thing. Okay, so I got the valve train back on. As far as I can tell, it's right. I'm gonna check it. I'm gonna check the manual, but there's a bolt here on a stud, and I was missing this bolt here's got red paint on it, and there was two with red paint. I feel like there needs to be a bolt to hold this down. I don't know if there was a washer, so I'm gonna have to look at the go online, look at the parts diagram. Hopefully it shows there being a washer there. I looked through the plastic bags of parts and there wasn't really anything extra. So I'm not sure what's going on, but it seems to be running smoothly. So moving along, I've got the firewall reinstalled, got the generator, alternator, got the voltage regulator and the solenoid, and I got the cooling system all set back up. The thermostat housing is on. Coolant's in the system. It doesn't appear to be seeping or leaking on the bottom end, so that's good. So yeah, the most difficult thing is just remembering how this wiring goes. So that's still going to be a work in progress because I can't really remember exactly where it went, but got a new temperature sending unit, so that's good. So now I need to make gaskets for the oil pan, and this is just me tracing it out where the holes are. Just going to cut that out, and I'm going to do the same thing for the valve cover, which is right here. And after that, carburetor's got to go on. Some of the throttle linkage has got to get hooked back up to the governor. You got to throw the battery in, set the ignition system up. So the coil and the all the ignition parts have to go back on. And if everything went back together smoothly, the timing should be the same. It shouldn't be off. But we'll deal with that when the time comes. Oil pan's got to go back on, oil in. I don't know. I'm shooting to have to try to test fire this thing by this afternoon, so we'll see. So everything's back together. Engine turns over, no problems. However, I will not start. I'm just getting backfiring, a little bit of flame and backfire out of the carburetor, which leads me to believe that there is a timing issue. So I'm getting a little frustrated because I spent probably 4 hours yesterday trying to get this thing timed. I'll be honest, it's not my strong suit dealing with the ignition systems. I moved this distributor, trying to get number 1 cylinder on the top dead center compression stroke. There's a mark on the flywheel. Line it up. It should be on top dead center. So This, I adjusted this as much as I could, but this is pointing, this should be pointing in the opposite direction, 180. That's the best I can tell. So I'm having problems figuring out if it's on the compression stroke. Now, and I'm also, you know, is this number one cylinder or is this number one cylinder? You know, they're running mates, so they're both at the top end of the stroke. When the mark is on, it's all about where the valves are. And I adjusted the valves yesterday thinking that maybe was the problem because I had it all apart. That was a mistake. I'm going to have to come back to that. So I pulled out the distributor thinking maybe I could rotate it 180, but the way the gearing is at the bottom, it's keyed, so it'll only go in one way. So now I'm thinking that maybe when I took the oil pump off, which is what this is keyed into, I couldn't get the pump off. It was like the gears were meshed and you couldn't drop it down. So I went in, did a real quick Google search. It said something about having number one cylinder at the top. Not thinking, I just put the cylinder to the top, it came out. No problem. So like a month later when I'm putting this back together, I just put the cylinder back up to the top. The gear, the pump goes in, no problem. But I have no idea, I did not realize the orientation could matter. And because this is keyed in only a certain way, I'm starting to think that maybe I need to actually have number one cylinder on top dead center compression stroke. The oil pump needs to go in a very, with the top gear that meshes with the distributor, it needs to go in a very specific orientation. And then hopefully this can be lined up 180. I believe that is where it needs to be. Because no amount of adjusting, this will adjust, you know, around, but I have pictures of it, and this guy, I didn't realize it actually will go all the way around. Interesting. I might play around with that. I thought I might have to take out the oil pump. Okay, I'm going to monkey around with this some more, and we will see if I can get this thing running. So we're in business. So it turned out all I had to do, and I had a brainstorm this morning, is I just had to move the wires around. Hey guys, it's been a hell of a day. I've been working on the tractor since like 9:30. I dealt with the ignition problems, got the timing sorted out, got the engine running, and it was, you know, running really smooth. I put the muffler back on. Pretty much I thought I was good to go, you know, at that point. Started getting all the parts back on, and I flushed the oil. I did 2 oil changes just to kind of get the last bit of sludge out of the engine. And I go to drive it out of the garage. I'm like, I'm good to go. I'm going to drive it out, park it by the barn, and I can't shift gears. The clutch is like dead. I don't know if it's out of adjustment or maybe something is seized up, because I mean it did sit for like 3 months. So there's not a lot you can do to troubleshoot the clutch on these tractors. I mean, I tried to adjust the pedal. I got the inspection hatch off underneath. You know, you look up, there's no oil leakage or anything like that. It's a dry clutch. Inside there, everything looks like it's working fine. So my best guess is the pressure plate and the flywheel might be seized together. So yeah, I don't really know how many options I have to deal with that without actually splitting the tractor apart. So I don't know. Okay, so where I'm at now is I got this inspection hatch off and I noticed that there's a couple holes in the flywheel. And I was reading one of the forums online, and some guy was talking about using a screwdriver to actually pry apart the pressure plate and the flywheel. And I was thinking maybe those holes are for that purpose. So I had my son push down on the clutch to take the pressure off, and we spun the engine over, lined up the hole, and I pushed through with a punch on both of the holes. And I seen a little bit of dust coming out of the inspection hatch, and we managed to, it seems like it's disengaged, so I was able to actually push the tractor forward while it was in gear but with the clutch depressed. So that tells me that it's releasing. But at this point I have no choice but to just put the oil pan back on, fill it up, start it up, and see what happens. Okay, so we're in business. That was a problem. The flywheel and the pressure plate and the clutch were probably seized together there, and basically I was able to put a punch through the access hatch and knock them apart. We kind of rolled it around in the garage and it felt like it was apart, so I put the oil pan back on, oil in, started it up, was able to drive it around no problem. So that's good. So yeah, I just got a few last minor things to do. I got to put the clutch inspection hatch, got to put that back on. I just put a new temperature gauge to go with the temperature sending unit, and I just tested it and it seems to be working. So I'm gonna have to keep an eye on the tractor because I got a sneaky suspicion that maybe last summer it was running a little hot. So I'm gonna have to keep an eye on it, and if it was overheating, that could have caused the O-rings to fail. And so I want to keep an eye on that. I don't know, maybe the rad's blocked or the oil water pump's not working. It doesn't have a thermostat. I bought a thermostat and I actually didn't, I took it apart, and lo and behold there was no thermostat in there. So that's just an old hack that the previous owner had done. So the problem was I didn't know how it went back in. I mean, it could have went to one of two ways, right? And I didn't want to put it in wrong. So I opted to keep the thermostat out. So fingers crossed. Anyways, thanks for watching. Maybe you learned something. I don't know. It was pretty hectic. It was a big job, but it's running. So at least I can do some minor chores now around the house. It's been a couple months without the tractor, and it kind of really hurt. And we were really concerned about, you know, winter time, hay, all these things. So hopefully I can just do some preventative maintenance and keep this thing running for a long time. Anyways, thanks for watching.